All right, I think we're good to go. So, hey everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic is add visibility to your MFT and provide business users with self-service using Accolm BAM. Now, there's plenty of reasons to why a company needs visibility into its MFT operations, and I'll give you a few examples. So an operations manager requires an overview of the MFT instance, and you could have multiple MFT instances. Audit teams need insights to detect any potential malicious connection attempts. And then you have all of these process owners that need to follow up on specific business processes or integration, depending on what terminology you choose to use. Or perhaps we simply need to follow up which partners we currently have issues with. So these challenges and many more are exactly what today's webinar is going to cover. Before we start, I want to highlight that if you are unable to stay for the whole webinar, we will be recording the session and we can send it to you if you like. If you have any questions, we have a QA at the end. You can also reach out to us by sending an email to sales@accolm.com or contact the person who invited you. All right. So firstly, this is me, Rickard Persson. Yes, it says Richard, but in Sweden we say Rickard. A technical pre-sales specialist at Accolm, and I realized that the little head next to my shoulder is my son's head, and this picture is most likely almost 9 years old. So I add a little bit of wrinkles over there, and you'll see who I am today. Let's take a look at the agenda. So firstly, just quickly about us as a company, Accolm, the product BAM. Why BAM, benefits of BAM, who needs the visibility and self-service. Then we'll walk through a BAM case studies, and then at the end we'll have a QA section. Let's see, I think we can do this. All right, so we are an IT software and services company with over 20 years of experience in MFTs. We provide solutions and expertise for Go Anywhere, EFT Diplomat, and Move It, and we have offices in Sweden, the US, Argentina, Ghana, giving us a global reach for support errands. Our main office, though, is in Stockholm, Sweden. Now, about the product itself, Accolm BAM is a web-based tool that complements, keyword complements, MFT products by providing visibility, analytics, and notifications, and is useful for both business and technical users. BAM is used by hundreds of customers worldwide, from banks to healthcare, states, teleoperators, you name it. Now, I think just about this section in general, we mentioned both business and technical users. However, the main purpose is obviously for business users in this webinar. Now, the question is, why do these hundreds of customers use BAM? We saw the need for BAM during our early works with MFTs when we engaged with our different customers. One of the things we noticed was that customers wanted better visibility and knowledge about their file transfers. And to be honest, I've heard it myself, even in the few years that I've been doing this, that MFTs are usually black boxes for business people. They have no idea what happens in there, right? So BAM helps unravel the mystery of MFTs. And it does so by providing self-service capabilities for everyone. If you have an important file transfer, you can use BAM to track that yourself, so you do not have to ask for administrative assistance or access to the MFT interface. So business people would be a lot less dependent on admins and support. Okay? So what are the benefits of using BAM then? It does reduce cost associated with administration and support. It provides self-service capability for everyone. And I think I've been saying this a few times now, but as a few simple options is that you can set up alarms for file transfer failures or files stuck in transit. It helps meet SLAs by drastically reducing response times, and it can do so by simply providing you with a simple heads-up alarm. BAM has a very simple way of giving you visibility of how the MFT service is being used with our different dashboard widgets and many ways of filtering your transactions. Business processes feature helps give our customers visibility of their business processes that run on the MFT server. And finally, BAM helps admin and support staff in faster problem detection and resolution. So who needs the visibility and sort of self-service that the BAM provides? Now, I would say any and all business users who need insight on their file transfers, really. I mean, we're talking about these integrations and business processes. A few of those examples would be customer service representatives, operations managers, finance and accounting staff, logistic and supply chain coordinators, compliance and audit teams, executives and business analysts, operation applications managers, and many more. So I mean, these are just a few examples, but again, any and all who needs insight on their specific files, file transfers. Now, the next step is actually to go into a demo, but I want us to just quickly cover this sort of simulated environment we're going to be looking at. So before we go into this demo, we will be simulating that we are a company called Company A. Very creative, I know. Now, Company A has business units called Finance, Logistics, as we can see in the picture. The Finance business unit has internal applications called Finance App. The Finance App generates files that are picked up by the MFT server and sent to an external partner called Private Bank. Private Bank does something to those files and sends response files later on. The sending of the files to Private Bank and the response from Private Bank makes up a business process that the Finance business unit calls Finance to Private Bank. The Finance business unit has SLAs that state that certain files need to be delivered by a certain time. We will use this to show how self-service can be provided to someone that works in the Finance business unit. I also want to highlight that I am going to give you examples outside of Company A, but it is still applicable to Company A. So Company A might have an audit team. Company A might have an operations manager that needs to track everything, okay? So with that being said, let me do this and that. And let me head into the product itself. Let me just prepare. All right. So before we understand what we see, I obviously need to give you some sort of brief explanations about terminologies and how this works. So whenever something happens on your MFT server, like a transfer task is triggered to send a file to a customer, BAM can display that activity. It can also display incoming files from partners, or if a partner connects and manually fetches a file from you. Now, BAM can also distinguish between success and failed transfers, giving you clear visibility of what's happening. Now, in BAM, we use the term transaction, as we can see on these two widgets over here, well, actually more, instead of file transfer, sorry. That's because not everything you do involves sending files. Some tasks simply cleans up old files or encrypts, decrypts data, and so on. I also want to highlight, and this is important to understand, that a transaction can include multiple actions. So if I'll just give you an example, a task can fetch a file from a folder, encrypt it, zip it, and then send it to a partner. That is essentially 4, or it could be more than 4 actions in there. But still, BAM is going to show you this as one transaction. So in short, a transaction is a sequence of actions performed in your MFT environment. And as we move forward, this is obviously going to become a lot more clear. Now, another key concept over here is participants. These are the entities interacting with your MFT server, such as senders and receivers in your transactions. So if we look at the widget in the center over here, we have sender and we have receiver. Private Bank, Finance App, fairly limited information, but it could be IKEA, DHL, and so on. Now, since BAM is built for business users, we use understandable names, as seen in the picture, and you have SAP, DHL, I said IKEA because I'm Swedish, or a bank's name, rather than these technical labels your MFT admins might use. And just to give you a very short and brief example, I mean, your transfer task could have any kinds of name that makes sense for a technical person, or the simple user accounts that they set up, which could be YXP03, but the company itself might be something completely different. So we need to be able to map these. By all of these technical usernames and tasks, we want to be able to map them to actual organization or systems. Okay, and we group them. So participants, we group them as either internal applications or external partners. So if I just highlight over here, we have all participants. If we wanted to see all of them, we have all of the external partners. So any of your customers, partners, whatever you have out there. And then applications could be your CRM systems, could be your finance app, logistics app, SAP, and so on. Okay, now I am currently logged on as an administrator. And one important thing is to understand, as I'm logged on as an administrator, is that I actually have visibility of multiple MFT instances at the same time. That means that we could have the MFT Prod 1 could be based in South America, and MFT Prod 2 could have been based in Asia. But with one single click logging onto BAM, I get a single pane of glass view of all of our file transfer information or transactions information over here. Now, also important to highlight, if you're in between or reconsidering switching MFT, as long as BAM supports said MFT, then you can actually use BAM as a migration tool as well, where you can track the old system and the new system, which means that we can have different MFTs connected to the same environment. All right, mentioned some form of operations manager. It could be anyone, but key point here is that I am the operations manager of company A. I log on Monday morning and I see 97 failed transactions. Now, that could be terrible. I wouldn't know. You could have thousands or millions of transactions, but having a 9% failures, it's worrisome. So I could panic, but with BAM, what I see is 97 failures, sure, but 2 participants with issues. Okay. So remember now that we could map our different user accounts and transfer tasks to participants. So one participant, equally, these 97 are split into 2 participants. Okay. If I wanted to get more information, I'll click this number so they're interactable, and we can see that they're aligned by row. So production 1, in which I call the South American instance, it actually has 0 issues, but the one in Asia has 2 participants with issues. So I already know that the team that's handling the South American instance doesn't actually need to be alarmed. However, we need to notify the Asian team. Okay. And then if I needed to find out who the actual participants is, I can click this and I will get a neat and short list of the current participants that are having issues right now. So it would be Secret Agency and Sportswear in Sweden. All right, getting back to the main dashboard. Let me just scroll a little bit over here. Let me just get a sip of water, sorry. So going back to company A, I am a business user from the finance team, from the finance business unit. Now, what we need to highlight over here is that we define access from depending on which unit you're from. So if I am from the finance team, I have a finance unit dashboard, right? And I will instantly get less information that it is limited by the administrators, how much information I'm allowed to see, right? Which is important because not everyone is allowed to see everything. So I can very briefly and very fast in this case, I can see that I don't have any issues with my participants. So we're okay, but we then have some kind of failures, which could have been outside. Now, other than that, I have the option to create, let's call them smaller dashboards and mini dashboards. within my specific access that I have. Okay, so if I am still a part of the finance unit, and let's focus down, let's go to, I guess, to the Nordics, because I'm from there myself. And let's say that we're still handling the finance situation, but I need to have a finance Sweden, and then I can make a Norway, and then I pick and choose which participants are supposed to be associated to this dashboard. And then I could create something called business processes, or these integrations. And I can pick and choose whichever are needed for the finance Sweden dashboard. Now, then we can sort of split by region if we wanted to. But at the end of the day, my responsibility might be a few of the processes between these different dashboards. Sure, I can create more dashboards, or we have the option over here, and you're going to see it as we move forward. I'm going to mention it multiple times. You see something called My Participants over here. And we see something called My Participants over here, My Partners over here. We see something called My Dashboard over here. This indicates that we can click around in the product and we can highlight our favorites, so that eventually, if I choose any of these, right, and I go to my dashboard, essentially the information that I get presented here is the information that I have requested, the information that I have favorited, right? Other than that, just giving you a simple explanation of this dashboard in general. Again, the organization, the single pane of glass. We have status widgets at the top, which are the most important widgets. We want to know in SLA information. We need the generic transactions information. We need the participants. And then we can click and play around with these. So maybe transaction trend is not something that I need. I guess SLA expected files, maybe not. I can see the numbers over here anyway. I need notifications. Oops, sorry. Let's see. I could use any, let's just do the inbound ones, which doesn't make any sense because I have it over here. But as you can see, I can play around with the dashboard. I can move the widgets. And then I realized that, oh, wait, hold on. This is not what I wanted. So I can then reset to the default, which helps me. And then once I've found the dashboard that I like, which is going to be stored on my account, then I can simply click set as default as well. So it is going to stick around. Now, just to give you an example of these different widgets, I'm just going to pick one of them. So the data transfer by environments. Firstly, if I change to one instance, right, we're looking at multiple instances, that specific widget is going to adapt to single instance. And now we're talking about top 5 participants data transfer. That means that we can see that private bank is currently the participant transferring the most files back and forth. Now, why does this matter? Well, for one of our customers, they wanted to bill their participants by the amount of data that they transferred. Now, this is obviously just the top 5, but we also have a report over here that says data transferred by participants, so that they can get the full information, and then they really can just base their billing by the information being stated in here. We have a bunch of reports, and if we have time, we'll probably jump in and take a look at those. And that, I think we understand the dashboard's point of view, or point, sorry. So let's walk through a common scenario. I'm sure most of us has been in a situation where someone needs information about the transaction in the MFT. And when I say someone, it's from my point of view, I'm an MFT admin myself. And obviously, what I'm thinking is that business users are going to reach out to me and ask for information, but it could be the other way around as well. I want to highlight that, and I'm probably going to do it anyway, further down the demo as well. Now, I remember while I was being at an offline webinar, and yes, those still do exist. It's not that common though. MFT admins from all over the country were there. One thing we all agreed on after the initial setting up of the MFT, most of our time spent with MFTs revolves around responding to incidents regarding file information. Has the bank received the payments file yet? The partner bank reached out asking why we haven't sent the report yet. You get these constant sort of similar questions, right? We all expect the MFT system to run by itself. And ideally, in a perfect world, that's how it should be. We really only need to react when something goes wrong, or when someone is asking a question or asking for information. So what is the actual challenge then? Well, I, as an MFT admin, do more work than just monitor the MFT server. So when a business user reaches out to me, I might be tied into another task or a meeting, or as I mentioned earlier, it could be vice versa. I'm trying to fetch someone. That communication gap is one of the key reasons we created BAM in the first place. So how do I get transaction information I need without running around and looking for people? I guess when we say running around nowadays, it might just be browsing our teams, I guess. So let's do all transactions. Now, this is generally if I want the latest transactions information, I would simply go to all transactions, and it's going to show me by the latest hour, right? Latest at the top, and as we go down. Now, important to see, we have the date, we have file names, file size, we have senders, receivers, and we have status as well. So green is obviously success, red is failed, and orange is partial success. And as I continuously joke about, is that we are a half glass full kind of company. You could have said partial failure, but no, we say partial success, and we keep positive here, I guess. Now, if we just go back to what I mentioned earlier, by the way, with the multiple actions in a transaction, if I do this one, for example, then the partial success, and I click the date, we can see that we managed to compress the file, zip the file, but we didn't manage to upload the file to the partner, Sportswear in this case. So if I do more details, I will get more technical information, right? And this might be beyond me. It could be beyond the business user, but we have the information. And as a little bonus for any admins in here, we can fetch the logs, the physical logs from the MFT as well. And we can get this information over here. Now, this is just giving you a very quick look at the information available through BAM, right? Very neatly presented, I might say. I don't know if you all agree, but I think so. Now, how do I get the file information then? So we have filtering options, right? Because right now we're just looking at the latest hours of transaction. Now I know the file name, so I can put file name. I know the sender, so I can put sender. And if I really wanted to go deeper, I could start looking at maybe the specific folder. If we're using, see, maybe we need a protocol that was being used. They might be sending both emails and both SFTP transfers to us. And I want to specify that it's an HTTPS transfer, for example. So we can combine our search with many different filters here. But since I am a simple person, I will simply do deliveries, and I will add an asterisk because I know that a lot of file transfers has date stamps and so on. So obviously you can start looking for all of the deliveries files. And in my demo environment, you're going to see that we are going to get a few of them. And we do logistics, right? And we hit apply. So we're looking for any files sent with the name deliveries, right? So then we can tell we can at least know in this case, right, that we did generate the report, if this is a report, and logistics app made it available for our MFT. A very simple case. And as you can see, and you can browse if you have multiple pages, but at the end of the day, we want to limit how much information we're seeing, right? And I wouldn't want to browse thousands of files in here. Let's see. Okay, so other than that, we can go back and let's look at company A again, and just simply company A might have a support team of some kind, and a partner has reached out to us. So let's stick to the business process example that I gave you, where I said finance app to private bank. So private bank reached out to our support team and they're asking, oh, why haven't you sent the file yet? Now, the nice thing here is if I am a part of the support team and if I have access to BAM, I don't have to ask anyone, not right now at least. I can initially check. So what I do is, because I know that private bank is a participant, I know it's a partner, I go to all partners, I could search, we could have thousands of participants and partners. I would have to add asterisks to, I would favorite the ones that I need to know. But we're talking about private banks, so I'm going to head on in here. And now we can start the conversation, still being the support staff member, right? I haven't involved anyone from the MFT team, haven't involved anyone from the finance application team, right? Simply a dialogue between partner and support. And then I can tell them, no, you did, I have received the credit confirmed, or we did send credits to you, right? So I don't have to worry anyone else for now using BAM in this case. Now, it's also important to understand, because I'm going to move on. I mentioned very early before the demo, I mentioned something called business processes. So let me go to the business processes page. And as you can see, my business processes, indicating that we're going to have some sort of stars over here as well. A business process is a collection of activities put together to carry out a specific business function in your organization. Now, these business processes could be application to application, they could be business to business, where you trade some sort of files between a business partner, for example. And a few examples of these could be bank payments, payroll reporting, purchase ordering, shipments notifications, or a human resource process. Some organizations refer to this as integrations. Right? So within BAM, business processes can be set up to make it easier for users or process owners to filter out transactions of those processes. So we already know participants, we know transactions, so we can find the files and we can look at the participants if we want to. But if the file transfer themselves is sort of its own process or integration, right? We need to be able to box those as well. I don't want to go in, we could have millions of trading files with private bank. Or, well, that'd be a little bit too much maybe, but many files. So I want to be able to segregate payments from credits, for example. Right? Because we do send files to private bank. So if I look at payments as an example, and giving you a very short story here. So someone from our finance team is handling payments files. That person will eventually generate a file that private bank is expecting. Once private bank has received the file, they will send a response file or receipts, something, right? And what does BAM actually show me over here then for this payments file process? Now, we're just going to look at the top 4 rows here. And by the way, I noticed a few hands being thrown up in the air, and we're going to do the QA at the end. So sorry for not pausing right now. Right, so on the picture that we saw before we went into the demo, we see it was very quick actually. Let me go back. So it was finance app, MFT system to private bank, like that sort of attempt to demonstrate what we're doing here. And then eventually we get something back. So we can see that finance app does generate the report. Private bank essentially receives the file. Private bank confirms the file with some sort of response. And then our finance app receives the confirmation. Now, again, about the people that potentially could be involved in troubleshooting anything that goes wrong in this process. Really important to understand here that take it back to that call from private bank, and they're asking, why haven't we received the file yet? I could, in an instant, find out that we never generated the file in the first place. So that means that this row over here actually isn't visible, which means that the rows above are not here as well, right? But we could see that the day before that this is the process that we did, and this is the process that we're expecting. So I can tell them, sorry, it seems like our finance application didn't generate the file. Let me reach out to that team. So I can do that. It could be that private bank is simply calling us to confirm, did you receive the file yet? Yes, I can actually see that we've received the file. And as a final, and me a little bit from my MFT admin heart, is that hopefully this is something that wouldn't go wrong, but we received the file, but we were never able to send the file because of some issue internally to the finance application. So in essence, looking at this process itself, I mean, we're talking about a support staff, we're talking about a partner, obviously, private bank, we're talking about someone that generates a file, finance application, we're talking about the MFT admin. Potentially, you could have a service desk team. That means that once the partner, I call them partner support, once they have noticed that they're an issue, they might create a ServiceNow incident, for example. That's a support member over there. So a lot of people are being involved, where with this visibility, we can sort of minimize the amount of people that needs to know about this, unless, of course, it's a bigger problem. Okay. And just to find out, the thing is that, and I understand this as well, I just want to highlight it, that my humble environment here with only 5 business processes and the highlighting of all of these, I've seen environments in BAM with hundreds of business processes. So it's really important to have the filtering. It's really important to have the my business process options and so on. Okay. Now going back to my screenshot, or sorry, my fancy little picture over here, and just highlighting what is a unit, a business unit for us. Like, how do we define what a business unit is? So the idea behind business unit functionality in BAM is that we want you to be able to mirror the organization, right? So company A has a finance unit and a logistics unit, and they could have more units, HR, operations, and so on. Now, the idea behind this is that eventually, when someone from these different units logs on, as I mentioned in the start of the demo, they are only allowed to see the information that they're supposed to see. So again, if I click finance, we're gonna see finance-related information, payments, loans, credits. And if I go back to business units and I click logistics, I'll see logistics-related information, deliveries, pallets, and so on. So we define access control through this, right? So if I am from finance, I see finance. If I am from logistics, I will see logistics. Now, I want to go back to the business process, and I want to go back to payments, because it is important to understand that we also can configure service level agreements in BAM. And that is one of the things I highlighted in the start, which is these transactions that need to be done within a specific time frame. And this could be postal services that needs files in time. And I know myself, if I want to send a package to a friend or someone that's buying something from me over the internet, then obviously I would have to put the package in the box in time. Otherwise, it's going to be delayed, right? And it's the same goes with bank and their payments. They have this time frame. It's very important that we follow these time frames, right? So what we need to do in BAM is we need to help you to be able to define your SLAs in here. Now, if I go to the dashboard, firstly, obviously, logging on in the morning, we see the SLA statuses and we're happy, right? Well, actually, we're not happy because one failed. So that could potentially be fairly costly for me, that couldn't it? So we have the quick status update of our SLAs. I go to expected files. This is where I'm getting the audit list and all of our SLAs that we've configured. Yet again, this is a very humble environment. We could have hundreds of these. We need to be able to search and filter. We need to be able to pick and choose our favorites. We need this quick status update of expected files, how many files were delivered, last audit, next audit, something called subscribe, which is a nice little thing I'll talk about in a bit. And if I needed more information, right, let's go back to finance to private bank. We see pass versus failures. Sorry, we did that in the page before as well. We see our last 7 days of audits. everyone's success, which is good. It's kind of interesting. I guess someone would be asking, expected file is 1, but you delivered 28. What's up with that? So if we look at the condition over here, check for at least 1 file, right? So at least 1 file daily by 2 p.m. and has the file name payments confirmed txt. Now, obviously, we could have an asterisk in here, and was successful and was inbound. Now, remember the process here, we are expecting them to send us some sort of confirmation file, so we can highlight that. Now, the next thing I'm going to be explaining here, it's such a simple little feature that we have. And I want to highlight it. SLA warning. Now, what this essentially means is we're expecting 1 file called payments confirmed by 2 p.m. However, 3 hours before, send me an SLA warning. So that means, as responsible for this business process and having a BAM available, it's going to tell me, and it's going to highlight for the admins as well, that we have an SLA that potentially fails within the next 3 hours because this condition hasn't been fulfilled yet. We haven't received a payments confirmation file. We still have time to reach out to private bank just to check with them that everything is okay. Even further, I could go to the business process and I could see, oh, wait, the finance app hasn't actually generated the file. So this issue right now, it's on our end. We need to fix that. So it gives you very straight and clear situation where you can proactively work on something. And I know this when I started in the MFT admin sphere, let's call it that for now. And it still echoes in my mind that someone from the business, they said, oh, Richard, you're only, actually Rickard, I guess you'd say, you only react once it's failed. What's happening? Can't you make sure that this doesn't happen? And sure, I'll try my best, but at the end of the day, we have thousands of user accounts. We have thousands, we could have hundreds of processes. We could have thousands of these transfer tasks, these automations. How am I supposed to track all of that? So we're empowering everyone that has the access to be able to track this now. All right, back over here, and want to highlight, and I mentioned it over on the SLA page, and then let me just click back, subscribe. And we have subscribe on a few different locations, but if I go to subscriptions and create new subscription, essentially what this means is that not everyone is going to be logging on to the BAM dashboard on a daily or even weekly basis. I wouldn't know, it's up to you all, but instead, what I want is to be able to get notifications, and specifically email notifications, so we can get an organization status overview. And we can subscribe to our business processes. We can subscribe to file transfers, which is essentially that we're choosing which participant we want to cover. Maybe we'll have some more specific about transaction direction or file name. And you can do SLAs, obviously SLAs, I already mentioned that. So I can get email notifications. I don't have to log on to the system constantly. And if we have a really nice admin, right? So once we've configured our MFT, once we've installed BAM and we've started sending requests of our business processes that we need to set up in BAM, oh, we need to use this. We need to utilize this. So actually your admin, so this is the admin section, by the way. So your admins can actually create subscriptions for you even. It's a really nice admin though. So what they can do is that you have requested to create a business process called finance to private bank payments, and then they can choose if it's a specific business unit, if it's specific users, or if they just want to specify the emails down here. So you can get this constant, well, not constant notifications, but you can define which notifications you need. And then as a final little notice is that we also have a notification system in BAM as well. As you can see over here, I have something called unprocessed files. I mentioned very briefly about tracking files stuck in transit, and we also have a notification system over here where we can, well, we do get information. Not going to go too deep into that. And I think that is for the demo side of things. So going back to the slides, let me click play. sorry, just a sip of water before I move forward here. So might want to take that sip of water as well, not just mention it. So BAM case studies then. Two of our, I'm very happy about these actually. So one of them is the largest telecom operators, one of the largest telecom operators in Sweden. They needed a way for their business units to get better visibility of their business processes, right? These integrations. Using the business unit section and the business unit dashboard in BAM, they're now able to easily and quickly, right? We're talking about speed here, track and trace their business processes, transactions, thereby saving them valuable time, specifically time, but also money, because time equals money. Then you have a large retail company in the UK needed a way for their MFT business users to search for transactions quickly. And we could see that when we engage in the transactions page, so that it's not very difficult, is it? Now, using that self-service capability coupled with the search filtering options in BAM, their users are now able to find the statuses of their file transfers and business processes. This has resulted in a drastic reduction in the number of support tickets that their MFT support receives daily, which in turn has made it possible for some of those support resources to be reassigned, right? And we need to understand this. If we can lower the amount of incidents and, well, not requests, but incidents regarding our MFT, then essentially our team can focus elsewhere, right? And I also want to highlight that there's last company, retail company in the UK, they did apply BAM, and then actually months later, they sent an email to us thanking them for adding BAM to their repertoire, so to speak. So it was a very joyful moment for us. Now, heading to the final, the summary. So to summarize all that we've seen, BAM is a tool that helps maximize investment in your MFT, provides visibility to non-admin staff. I want to highlight that you also as an admin has its benefits, right? Helps reduce costs by providing self-service capabilities, helps admin and support staff in faster problem detection and resolution, and then reduce workload on admin and support staff. And I truly hope that I've achieved to explain this through the demo for you all. Thanking everyone for joining. As always, I find this to be a joy. If you need any other information or more information, please visit our webpage, seen on the screen. And you can also email us at sales@accolm.com, or as I mentioned earlier, reach out to anyone who invited you to this session, I guess. Thanks again for joining, and I guess have a nice Wednesday.